Hi everybody, and welcome back to the InTouch Machine Edition training video series. Today we're going to cover screen groups, and in this video what you should walk away with is an understanding of how to create screen groups, and what we're going to create is the template to be used in the remaining training videos. So this will be the foundation for the rest of the project that we do. Upon completion of this course, you should be able to create multiple screens of different sizes and manage them as a screen group. You should be able to set a screen group as the startup group and understand the X and Y positioning that happens of the cursor and screens, and set background colors. So let's get started. Most HMIs, or a lot of HMIs, will allow you to have a single screen, be edge to edge, full resolution. One of the things that InTouch Machine Edition lets you do is you can have multiple screens open simultaneously, and this allows you to create some convenient things. For example, what we're going to create here is a navigation screen down the left-hand side, a header across the top that'll have some status, maybe the company logo, and some buttons. And then we'll also create kind of a working area here. We'll create a template, and this will be kind of all the other screens. We'll create that template and then position it and color it and whatever else, and have it all ready to go. And then we'll just save that template as other screens. So the first screen that we'll create from that template will be main. And this provides a convenient way that the header and that status can stay there, the navigation can stay there, and you don't have to add those to every single screen that you create. As we get working on this, we're gonna I'll show you that this will be 150 pixels tall. This was going to be 1024 by 768 resolution, so we're going to have to subtract that from the area up here for the navigation, and then we're going to have to subtract this area for the width and the height of the navigation panel. So we'll get working on that. But it's you can do full screen. You don't have to do these screen groups or these multiple screen interfaces, but this is another thing that InTouch Machine Edition does very well and helps you create a really nice application out of this. So what we're going to do is we're going to bring InTouch Machine Edition here into view, and I'm going to create a brand new project here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to browse to a location here. Now, before the video started, I made, instead of in the Documents folder, I made a folder right off of the C drive. And part of the reason is sometimes permissions get in the way, sometimes various things happen when you're in the Documents folder. So just to kind of safeguard against that and make sure that you don't run into any issues while you're doing your training videos, we're going to just back right up to the C drive here, and I made a folder called ITME for InTouch Machine Edition _projects, and that's where I'm going to put this project. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to have you call this ITME _training. And for the previous videos, we have not had you follow along so closely. Starting now, though, we want you to follow along and do these actual exercises and create those. So feel free to pause or stop the video at any time and follow along. Another thing that I'd like to have you do is follow the same naming that I do. Try not to abbreviate. Try to keep underscores and spacing the same way that I do, and that'll prevent any issues. So that for whatever reason, if I have a tag called temperature, don't abbreviate it and call it temp, because there might be some places where we actually call a tag called temp. So don't do that. And then if I have underscores or spaces, please use them the same way. So I'm going to put that into ITME projects. That'll be ITME training. And we're going to choose, just to get started here, the 500 tag InTouch Machine Edition license here. So go ahead and click on OK. And even if you don't have your license, you can still do this in evaluation mode as well. So I'm going to go ahead and click on OK. And I'm going to choose a resolution that's 1024 by 768. To help keep everything in line here for this training video, please choose that as well. Even if your resolution is something different, create a different project for if you're working on a project or something different. But to follow some of the things in this class, we're going to stick with 1024 by 768. These are some standard display resolutions, and if you don't find the one that you have, it's always a good idea to go then under Custom, where you can enter values from 240 pixels by 240 to 10,000 by 10,000. So quite a wide range there. But in this case, we're just going to stick with 1024 by 768 for this project. And if you're not sure which one to choose when you develop a project, it's not so critical that you choose the exact right resolution, but it is a good idea to make sure you have the same aspect ratio. So if you have a 4:3 aspect ratio that like 1024 by 768, then you can easily scale it down to 800 by 600 or 640 by 480 or any of those. But if you have a widescreen resolution that's maybe a 16 by 9, then you can go up to 1920 by 1080 or any of the widescreen. So try to pick the same aspect ratio that you have. So I'm just going to choose 1024 by 768 here from the list and go ahead and click on OK. Now that's going to set up the project, default to that resolution. And whenever I create a screen, here I'm going to right click on screens. This is under the graphics tab. Screens, I right clicked, click insert. It's going to default my screens to that size. Well, we're going to change that here for the first screen. Since we're going to do that header across the top, that is going to be 1024 wide, but we're only going to do it 150 pixels tall. Its upper corner position is 0, 0, and let me show you what that'll be here. Let me go back to the PowerPoint presentation. That's this 0, 0 point here. X comma Y, the first value being X, then Y. X goes increasing towards the right, and Y goes increasing downward. And that's going to come into play as we do some animations and understand that. But again, this is 150 pixels tall and this is 150 pixels wide. So you should see a strip like this and more of a horizontal orientation for this header that we're going to create. If you see a vertical one, what you did is you can right click here on the screen background and go to screen attributes. You probably entered that into the width instead of the height. So make sure you have 1024, 150, 0, 0 in there. And again, that was right click and then click on screen attributes. To get things going here, we're going to put what might be a common thing to do is put a company logo on the screen. So what I've done is I've copied the Wonderware by Schneider Electric logo into Paint, and I'm going to then select all and then copy this logo to my clipboard. And now I can come back in here and I can right click and paste, and then I'll put that logo in here. Now before I do the next step on this logo, I want to change the background color of this screen. So I'm going to right click on the screen and then choose background color, pull this drop down, and I'm just going to choose this very light blue here. I would suggest sticking with lighter colors for this class. You can do whatever colors you want to for your project, but for this class, we're going to default to the black text that's chosen. So a light color will be helpful to be able to see the text throughout this project. So we're going to change that. Now, one of the reasons why I did this is so you could see this bounding rectangle around this logo. If I double click or right click on this logo, you can see that. Now if I right click or double click on this logo, you can see that here I have a choice for a transparent color. Here I can pull this drop down and I can choose a color code. There's a way to do that, and we'll get into that more when we get into animations. Or I can choose this tracker. Now these little corners around here are the trackers, and now with this there's an extra little tracker here that you can choose which color you want to be transparent. And I'm going to position this over the white so that will go transparent, but you can see that I can position it over this gray. And if I put it kind of in between here on a color that's not exactly gray, you can see that it's kind of gotten just the ones that match that exact color. Now this is just a heads up, and we'll again talk a little bit more when we get into some of the graphic stuff, but it has to match that color exactly. There's no variations, there's no tolerance within that. So it's one color and one color only, and you might have to make adjustments in a graphic editor if you're wanting to do that. So so that's how you make that background transparent. Now the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to put some status up here, and I could do individual text items with text here, but in this case I'm going to use the caption field of a rectangle to make it a little bit easier and a little bit multiple lines here, so I can do that. One of the things that I have here in the PowerPoint is the text that I'm going to use. I'll make this a little bit more readable for you. So I'm going to put the date and time. Now those are system tags, and by using those inside of curly brackets, it will show the value of those. Then I'm going to put just some static text that says username, a colon, a space, and then I'm going to put in curly brackets the username, and then so on and so forth. Now the only one that's a little bit different here is get computer IP. You can see that that has parentheses in it. That's because that's a built-in scripting function, and that's how you note that is with the parentheses there, just in case there's some parameters there. So I happen to have off screen some text where I've typed this in ahead of time, and I'm just going to go ahead and copy and paste that in there. So good time to pause the video, and don't forget that you can do that. You can pause and play the video. I'm going to go back to the PowerPoint so that you can see that, and might be again a good time to pause that and go ahead and type that in that caption field of that rectangle. All of these are curly brackets with the exception of get computer IP, then it's open parenthesis, close parenthesis, then close curly bracket. So go ahead and pause that, and then come back when you're ready. All right, you should be back now and have typed all this in. When you click on OK here, you should be able to see all of that. It doesn't matter if the rectangle is maybe just a little bit too small. You can adjust that and move things around. This will adjust because your IP address and some different things are not going to be as long as this is during runtime. But again, you can adjust that. Now the other thing that we're going to do is we're going to scroll over here on the right edge of the screen, upper right hand corner. I'm going to put some of the built-in symbols from the symbol library. Now don't worry if you don't understand exactly what the symbols are doing, because we have a whole video on that later on. But for this training project, I'm going to put the exit button up in the upper corner. That's for people who are familiar with Windows-based systems. That's where they're kind of used to having things, is up in that upper right-hand corner. And just so you know that with security and with you can show or hide that, and you could disable that if they don't have the right security. So that's something that can happen later on, and we'll show you that in some of the other videos. The other the other button that I'm going to put on the screen is log on. I'm going to choose the log on to. I just happen to like the look of the logo a little bit better. Now that's going to give us the ability to log on to the security system. And then the last thing that I'm going to put on is a button that will show us Notepad. Notepad we might use to view some text files or edit some text files later on. So just going to have it handy up here for ease of use. So at this point, I've colored the screen background. I put the logo transparent, put the caption here on the rectangle, and put some buttons. So now I can save that screen, and I have a few different options. I can use save from up here, save from the file menu here. I can right click and click on save. I'm going to actually, this is probably a bad habit of mine, but I'm going to close the screen and it will prompt me to save the changes. I say it's a bad habit because if you close screens, you get a little too anxious and don't say save, then you potentially can lose all of your work. But you will see me do that during this training class. Not lose my work, but click on the X. This screen we're going to call header. And again, if you could follow along and type that in as HEADER, header. You do not have to type the .scr. It will go ahead and automatically add that extension for you. So now we should have a header here in the list of screens. The next one we're going to do is that navigation down the left-hand side, and that will be 150 pixels wide. I right-clicked on screens. Sorry, I didn't announce this. I right-clicked on screens and clicked on insert. The height of this, we have to now take into account the 150 pixels that the header took. So we're going to take off 150 pixels off of that, and that's going to be 618. Now we also have to take into account the 150 pixels that the header took in to move this down. And let me go again back to the PowerPoint and see here that this navigation, or this point right here, is 150 pixels down. Well, what point are we going to start that at? If we remember that this first pixel here is 0, 0. So this header, being 150 pixels tall, goes 0 to 149. The next available pixel is 150. So we're going to start that at 150. So that will go 150 down to 0. So it should be 150 wide, 618 tall, 150 position down, and then left starting at the very leftmost. So I should be able to click on OK. And again, I should see this vertical strip as opposed to the header that was this horizontal strip. If you got the other orientation, you can go back in and right-click, click Screen Attributes, and change these to match these settings here. So 150 wide. And then at this point, we're gonna put just a button on the screen just to give us some location here. Now we're gonna put a bunch of buttons in this area here, so I don't want these to be too tall. What I want to do is actually shrink this up. I know from experience that I'm only going to have at most 2 lines of text. So what I'm going to do is just put a little placeholder in here, and I'm going to put line 2 in here, and that will allow me to grow and shrink this so that I can see, oh, that's too small and that fits 2 lines of text. So that's you can see down here in the status bar that it's 131 pixels wide and 41 pixels tall. So go ahead and make it that size. If you make it too tall, we're going to run out of room. So try to keep about that same size. Now I'm not going to define this button yet because I can possibly misspell the main screen that I'm going to put on here. So I'm going to keep this and I'm going to come back to this before we actually run our project. The next thing I'm going to do is change the background color. So I'm going to right click on background color here. And yeah, I can choose solid colors, but in this case I'm going to choose fill effects, and I'm going to choose from that same light blue, fill effects, and I'm going to choose from that same light blue, and I'm going to have it gradient fill to white, and I'm going to change this to a vertical orientation so it goes from this light blue. Hopefully that comes through on the videos okay. It's a light blue on the left hand side and white on the right hand side. So you should see that gradient there. At this point I'm going to go ahead and save this screen and choose this as navigation. And again, please, to follow along, go ahead and put that in as navigation. Again, you don't need the extension, so .scr will be automatically added to that. And now we're going to create the template screen here. So we're going to, again, right-click, Insert. And now this one, we've got a little bit of work to do because we have the header and the navigation. Now we've got to move this thing and adjust it. This one, the width of this is going to be 1024 minus 150 or 874. And then we got to remove that 150 from the 618, so that I'm sorry, from the 768, so that'll be 618, and then the top will be 150 and 150. Now we're going to come back in and talk about the screen styles here, and the fact that if you typed in these locations wrong and overlapped another screen, it would actually close the other screen. We'll come back and talk a bit about that in a minute. So now that we've positioned that screen correctly, I'm going to go ahead and change the color of this screen. Let's see, change background color here. And I'm going to choose, just for a quick test, I'm going to choose a little bit darker blue because I want to talk specifically about that upper corner. Now we're going to come back in and change this and overwrite this in a bit, but this is just to illustrate a point. So I'm going to go ahead and click choose a darker color there, and then because I've changed something on the screen, I'll be able to save this. So I should be able to save this as template and say save. And now this is a step that we're going to do, a couple of steps that we're going to do through the remaining training videos. So take a look at this closely and watch what we're going to do. Every time we add a new function in the training videos, for example, alarms or trends, we're going to add a new screen. And to do that, we're going to do 2 steps. We're first going to save the template as another screen name, and then we're going to add the navigation to the navigation. So let's go ahead and do that. What we're going to do is I can right-click or I can double-click here and open up this screen. And then I can click on the File button here and do a Save As. And now I'm going to save this as Main, M-A-I-N, Main. And now it's already positioned where I wanted it. It's already colored the way that I wanted it. And the next thing that we're going to do is then go into the navigation and now change this button here to be labeled as Main. Now that's just the caption only. That does not functionally make it go to that screen. So we need to add a command animation. That can be done in a couple of different ways. I can go here to the animations group under the graphics tab and click on command, or here's a little shortcut. Since we have this open, we just click on command and that does the same thing. It adds that command to it. And now I'm not going to do VB script. I'm going to use the open screen command. And here's what I was talking about. I could have typed this in here manually, and there are reasons why you will want to do that at some point. But in this case, I'm going to just So here, rather than typing in the name, we can actually click on Browse and then choose the screen that we want, and then that way there's no spelling mistakes or typos. So I'm going to click Close here, and eventually we'll add more buttons here. Now the only thing left to do really is create a screen group out of these three screens. So I'm going to save the changes here, and close this. And now here's kind of where everything comes together. We're going to tie three of these screens together as a screen group. So here I'm going to right click and insert a screen group, and I'm going to choose, and I do not have to hold down Shift or Control, I'm just clicking my left mouse button. I'm going to choose the header, the main, and the navigation, not choosing the template. And I'm going to give this a group name of Startup. Now this startup does not mean that it starts up. This is just the name I'm giving it. You can really call it anything that you want to. I'm calling it startup to make it easier for yourself or for somebody else who has to look at this project in the future to know which screen or screen group is the startup group. So I'm going to click on OK here. Now what that's done here, you can see this has created the startup screen group. And you can see that those three screens are in there. If for some reason you accidentally chose the wrong screens, or let's say maybe you included the template screen in here, which you don't necessarily want to do, there is no editing of this. You can't right click on it and edit this. You have to delete it and start over. But really it's just a few mouse clicks and to recreate that. So if you're looking for a delete or edit, there is no edit, it's only delete. So now the last thing that I have to do is set this as the startup, and as a shortcut, here's how you can do that. You can right click and set as startup, and that will set that startup group or all three of those screens to start when you start your project. Alternatively, this again, that's kind of a shortcut. Alternatively, here's where that is set, or if you need to look at somebody else's project where you can find what is the startup, you can click on the project tab up here and then go to Viewer, and right here it shows the startup screen is the startup screen group right here. You can pick from this list other screens, individual screens if you want to, but this is the group of screens that will start on startup. So with that, now I'm going to go offline for just a second and then prepare my HMI to download, and so I'll be right back in just a second. Okay, so I'm back. What I've done is started up my remote HMI, and I've started CE server or the remote agent, and I've got this sitting here waiting for a download. Notice here that it presents me with the IP address. In this case, mine is 192.168.1.142. So what I'm going to then do is use the remote management tool here, connect up to it, and we'll give that 192.168.1.142. At this point I should be able to connect to it, and I can in fact connect to it. Then I'm going to go to project, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to navigate here on the target, and what I'm going to do is create a new folder here, and in this case I'm going to make it under C ITME projects, and this is just where I have my projects stored here. If you don't have that, feel free to use the create folders to do that. And again, I'm going to make this folder, but I'd like you to stick with this name so that we can use this and have similar throughout the rest of the training videos. We're going to do ITME_training. And click on OK. Now here's a step that I often miss, is I forget to go into the project folder. So make sure that you go into that folder before you download. Otherwise you'll be left with your project at this level, which is not necessarily what we want. So make sure again you dive into that ITME training. Click on OK, confirm it here, and now I can download my project, and that'll download the screens, the graphics. Tells me that all the files were sent successfully. I can then launch this on the remote HMI, and once that comes up, and I can bring this into view here, you can see that this has got my project on it. Now, before we end, what I would like to show you is that the this point right here and how this works is if I was to overlap this header by 1 pixel with the main screen here, that would cause me a little bit of an issue. And here's why. what happens, and let's go into the help system here. Before we do that, let's take a look at the header screen here. If I right click and go to screen attributes, these screens were all created in the default style, which is replace partial. There's overlapped pop-up, replace partial dialog, and replace complete. I want to show you part of the help system here, so I'm going to use the context sensitive help little question mark icon and then click on the background of the screen. This is one of the few places that you can use the context sensitive help. The properties boxes of the objects is another. So this will open up the screens part of the help system, and I'm going to go to the screen attributes dialog and then scroll down here a bit till we get to the style. So here you can see that the replace partial opens the screen and closes all other replace type screens, which there's two, that it partially covers. Now the key thing here is the word partially. It doesn't have to completely close or completely cover the screen, only partially, and that means by at least 1 pixel. And the reason why I'm pointing this out is if you have a full screen to screen application and you open up a new screen, the reason it does this is you don't then have to do the housekeeping to close the other screen. You don't have to manage that. It's a convenience issue, but or a convenience item, I should say, not an issue. But the ways some people get into trouble is they don't realize that if this partially overlaps even by 1 pixel, it will close the other screen. Now this is why I specifically chose the color scheme that I did so that we can see that point right there. If I go back into my main screen here and I right click and I change the attributes and I move the top part of this up by 1 pixel, or I go to 149, it'll overlap that header screen. And now what happens if I save the changes to this time I'm not going to download this, but I'm going to stop the remote project from running. I'm going to download it completely just to make sure that I get everything there. And now I'll run it. And when I bring this into view, what you'll see here is hopefully you saw the header showed up for just a little bit, then the main screen opened up, and I don't know if you can do this or see this, but maybe what I'll do is during the post-production I'll see if I can zoom in on this area here and show you that that's up 1 pixel higher. So what happened is that 1 pixel overlapped with the header and the header closed. So be aware if you get a screen that's not opening, this is potentially what you have, is you've got some overlap there. So what I'll do is I'll go back in and change that. But before I do, here's what I'm going to do is because the main was created from the template, and I don't want you to have a messed up template from now on. What I'm going to do is actually go change the color of the background of the template. And I'll make that maybe this light blue here. Again, try to stick with a lighter color because we're going to use a black font. And if we stick with this kind of light blue and I save this screen, I'm not going to download this just yet. But then I use this to overwrite the main screen. I just want to check to make sure screen attributes, yeah, those are set to 150, 150. And then I can do this file, save as. Choose the main screen, and this will prompt me, hey, it already exists, do you want to overwrite it? Well, I don't have anything on that screen, and I've got it the wrong color background in the wrong position, so I'm going to overwrite that and then save that. And now, or actually that just closed to that. Again, I'll stop that running remotely. I'll re-download the whole project. You don't have to all the time, but because I'm making so many kind of changes, I'm just going to do that to make sure everything catches up here. And then I'll rerun that. And let's see, I'm not sure if I clicked on run. I moved out of to the upper screen here before I looked. So I'll rerun that and then pull this back into view here. And now you should see that the background or the main screen and the header, because they're the same color, they look seamless here. I can use this to go to my main, and as we add more buttons, you'll see that. And in the next few videos, we're going to add some more screens in here, some stuff in there. And here I should be able to launch Notepad, and that's running a test version of Windows that let me know that. So that launches Notepad. This will prompt me, since the security system's not enabled, it's not prompting me for the security, but I know that that will work when we get to the security. And then otherwise I can hit the exit button on here and exit that application. So just a couple more quick things that I'd like to wrap up is that in positioning the screens, we manually set those with the numbers of the height and width and the position. Alternatively, you can, let's say in this case, I open up all three of those screens, and now what I can do is choose to use this layout button, which is here under the graphics tab. This layout icon will then let me see those screens, how they're all going to fit together, and I can move those screens, and then it'll prompt me if I want to change the actual positions of those. In this case I'm going to say no, and alternatively from moving I can actually resize those screens and then choose how everything fits together that way, and it will actually alter those screen attributes settings as well. So that's another way to do that. And the other thing that I wanted to show you is that when I originally created this project, I'm not sure if I saved this screen, so I'm just going to say yes. When I originally created this project, I pointed it to the C drive, and I made a special folder there. That can be altered as your default. If you want to choose a different default here, I believe it's under Options, under Project. No, it's not there. It's under Viewer. No, sorry, it's under Preferences. Here you can set up the default. So this is where the default is. I can browse to that location, and then I don't have to change that every time. It will just default to that location. So that's something to show there. Let's see. Looking at a list off screen to make sure I've covered everything. And it looks like I have. So with that, we're going to remind you that you have additional online resources at these various links that you can get to, and I'd like to thank you for attending. And again, we're going to continue on with this project from now for the remaining videos, and I'd like to thank you for your time, and hopefully you enjoyed this. Thanks.